March 7, 2014, was an ordinary night at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. People were tired after long days, some excited about travel, others just doing their jobs. Flight MH370 was scheduled to fly from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. It was a routine international flight, nothing special, nothing alarming. On board the aircraft were 239 people. Among them were families going home, business travelers, students, tourists, and experienced crew members. The pilots were skilled professionals with thousands of hours of flying experience. The aircraft itself, a Boeing 777, was known as one of the safest airplanes ever built. Passengers checked their tickets, placed their bags in overhead compartments, and settled into their seats. Some listened to music, some slept, and some sent last messages to loved ones. Nobody imagined that these would be their final moments on land. At exactly 12:41 a.m., Flight MH370 took off smoothly into the night sky. The runway lights faded behind it. To everyone watching, it was just another plane disappearing into darkness, heading toward another country. No alarms were raised. No distress signals were sent. Everything seemed completely normal. Asterisk as MH370 climbed higher. It communicated normally with air traffic control. The pilots responded clearly and calmly. The plane followed its planned route across the South China Sea. Nothing unusual was reported by the crew at 1:19 a.m. The aircraft was about to leave Malaysian airspace and enter Vietnamese control. The pilot spoke his final words to the ground. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Those simple words were normal, polite, and routine. No fear, no urgency, just a standard handover message. Moments later, something strange happened. The plane's communication systems stopped transmitting. The transponder, which helps track aircraft, was switched off. On civilian radar screens, MH370 vanished. At first, controllers assumed it was a technical issue. These things sometimes happen. But minutes passed. Then, more minutes. Vietnam never heard from the plane. Calls were made. No response came back. What nobody knew at that moment was that the aircraft had not crashed. It was still flying. Later investigations revealed a shocking truth. Military radar systems had detected MH370 turning back. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the plane made a sharp turn and flew back across Malaysia. This turn was not accidental. It was controlled. The aircraft climbed and descended at different levels. It followed known air routes, avoiding busy airspace. Whoever was controlling the plane knew exactly what they were doing. The aircraft crossed the Malaysian peninsula, flew over the Strait of Malacca, and then headed out into the vast Indian Ocean. All of this happened silently. No distress call. No warning. No explanation. Passengers on board likely had no idea what was happening. The cabin lights were probably on. The engines were running smoothly. To them, it may have felt like a normal flight. On the ground, no one was watching by the time authorities realized something was seriously wrong. MH370 was already far away, flying toward one of the most remote places on Earth. That night, a normal flight quietly became an unsolved mystery after MH370 disappeared from civilian radar. Air traffic controllers were not immediately alarmed. Communication gaps happen sometimes. Radios fail, signals drop, planes reappear. For the first few minutes, this silence did not feel dangerous. Vietnamese air traffic control waited for the plane to contact them. It never did. Malaysian controllers tried calling the cockpit. There was no reply. Messages were sent through different systems, but the aircraft remained silent. Minutes slowly turned into an hour. Still, no emergency signal was received. No Mayday call. No automatic crash alert. This made the situation confusing. If the plane had crashed suddenly, there should have been some sign. But there was nothing, just empty airspace. Behind the scenes, controllers began to feel uneasy. Something was wrong, but no one could clearly explain what it was by the time authorities officially declared MH370 missing. Valuable time had already passed in Beijing. Families waited at the airport for flight MH370 to arrive. The arrival boards showed delays. At first, people were patient. Flights are late all the time. Parents held flowers. Children waited excitedly, but as hours passed, no updates came. Airline staff avoided eye contact. Security presence increased. Phones rang constantly. Slowly, fear began to replace patience. Some families tried calling their loved ones. The calls rang, but nobody answered. Eventually, officials gathered the families into a private room. The message was unclear and incomplete. The plane was missing. Contact had been lost. Searches were underway. For many people, this moment felt unreal. How could a large airplane just disappear? Panic spread quickly. News channels around the world broke the story. Social media exploded with questions, theories, and rumors. MH370 was no longer just a flight number. It had become a global crisis. Search and rescue teams were immediately deployed to the South China Sea, where the plane was last seen on civilian radar. Ships and helicopters scanned the water. Planes flew low, looking for debris or oil spills. Every floating object raised hope. Every report of wreckage made headlines. But one by one, these leads turned out to be false. Unknown to most search teams, MH370 was not in the South China Sea at all. It had already flown far away toward the Indian Ocean. Military radar data that showed this. Turn was not shared immediately. This delay changed everything. Search efforts continued in the wrong area for days. The ocean is vast. Every hour without the correct location made the chance of finding evidence smaller. By the time authorities understood the true flight path, the plane had been missing for weeks. The ocean had already hidden many of its secrets. The world watched in disbelief as the search expanded instead of narrowing. Weeks after MH370 disappeared, investigators made a discovery that changed everything. Even though the plane's communication systems were off, another system had continued working silently. This system belonged to a satellite company, not air traffic control. Every hour, the satellite sent a simple signal to the aircraft. The plane responded automatically. These signals did not give location directly, but they proved something shocking. MH370 was still flying. For nearly 7 hours after losing contact, the plane continued moving through the sky. This meant it did not crash suddenly. It did not explode. It did not fall into the sea right away. Instead, it kept flying quietly, steadily, and without anyone on the ground knowing where it was going. This discovery stunned investigators and the world. It also raised terrifying questions. Who was controlling the plane? Were the passengers alive during this time? Why was no emergency message sent? The mystery became deeper, not clearer. Using satellite data, experts traced possible paths the aircraft could have taken. Two main routes appeared, one toward the north and one toward the south. After detailed analysis, the southern route became the most likely. This route led deep into the Indian Ocean, one of the most remote and dangerous places on Earth. No nearby airports, no ships, no witnesses. Just endless water. Investigators believe MH370 flew until it ran out of fuel. At that moment, the engines would have shut down. The plane would have descended rapidly, possibly spiraling, before hitting the ocean with great force. If this is true, the passengers may have been unconscious long before the crash due to lack of oxygen. This idea brought some comfort to families, but no proof could confirm it. All that remained was a final arc on a map, ending in the middle of nowhere. Once the likely crash zone was identified, the search moved to the southern Indian Ocean. What followed was the largest and most expensive underwater search ever attempted. Ships from many countries joined. Advanced sonar systems scanned the seabed. Autonomous underwater vehicles explored depths never searched before. Some areas were deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Day after day, the ocean revealed nothing. Years passed. Search areas expanded. Billions of dollars were spent. Finally, in 2018, authorities made a painful decision. The official search was suspended. The plane was still missing. Families were devastated. For them, stopping the search felt like giving up on the truth. For the world, MH370 became a symbol of unanswered questions. How could such a large aircraft disappear without a trace? In 2015, more than a year after MH370 vanished, the ocean finally gave up its first secret. A piece of aircraft wing, called a flaperon, washed up on a beach on Reunion Island. Near Africa. Experts confirmed it belonged to a Boeing 777 and later confirmed it was from MH370. This discovery proved one thing clearly. The plane had crashed into the Indian Ocean over the next few years. More debris pieces were found on beaches in Africa and nearby islands. Each piece was carefully studied. Some were confirmed as part of MH370. Others could not be identified with certainty, but none of these pieces revealed how the plane crashed or why. There was no black box, no main body of the aircraft, no cockpit voice recorder. The debris answered one question, but opened many more. With no final evidence, theories began to grow. Some believed a mechanical failure caused a chain reaction of problems. Others thought there was a fire on board that disabled communication systems. Another theory suggested a hijacking, though no group ever claimed responsibility. The most controversial theory focused on human action from inside the cockpit. Investigators examined the captain's home flight simulator. Some flight paths looked similar to MH370's final direction. This caused global debate. Was it intentional? Was it coincidence? Or was it misunderstood data? No theory could be proven. Every idea had holes. Every explanation left important questions unanswered. For families, these debates were painful. Speculation felt like blame without proof. They wanted facts, not guesses, but without the black boxes. Facts were limited. MH370 became not just a mystery, but a disagreement the world could not settle. For the families of the 239 people on board, MH370 is not a theory or a documentary topic. It is a daily reality. Without confirmed answers, grief has no ending. There is no final goodbye. No certainty. Just waiting. Aviation experts also stress the importance of truth. Every accident teaches lessons. Every mistake improves safety. But without knowing what happened, those lessons remain incomplete. MH370 changed aviation rules. Tracking systems were improved. Emergency communication standards were updated. But the main question remained unanswered. What happened inside that plane during its final hours? The world moved forward, but the mystery stayed behind. Years passed after the official search was stopped. But the story of MH370 did not fade away. Families continued to demand answers. Independent researchers kept studying data. New ideas about the crash location slowly emerged by 2025. Technology had advanced enough to change the situation. New underwater drones could scan deeper parts of the ocean. Artificial intelligence could now study seabed images faster and more accurately. Search methods that were impossible in 2014 were now available. A private search company, announced plans to return to the Indian Ocean. This time, the focus was on areas that were missed before or not searched in enough detail. For families, this announcement brought mixed emotions. Hope returned, but so did fear. Hope of finally knowing the truth. Fear of being disappointed again. The world once again turned its eyes toward the ocean. A renewed search used tools never used before in the MH370 investigation. Autonomous underwater vehicles moved silently across the seabed. Sonar systems created clear images of objects hidden under layers of sand. Artificial intelligence helped identify shapes that looked unnatural, possible signs of wreckage. Every signal was examined carefully. Every discovery was double-checked. The ocean floor is not empty. It is filled with rocks, shipwrecks, and natural formations. This makes searching extremely difficult. One mistake could waste weeks. Still, the search continued. Each day without results tested patience. But unlike before, the search was focused, smarter, and guided by years of research, whether the plane would be found or not. This effort represented humanity's refusal to give up. Today, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 remains one of the greatest mysteries of modern history. It reminds us that even with satellites, computers, and global communication, fun truths can still hide from us. If the wreckage is found, the mystery may finally end. Investigators may learn what happened in the cockpit. Families may finally find peace. The world may finally stop asking the same question. If it is never found, MH370 will remain a symbol, a reminder of how fragile certainty can be. But one thing is clear: the people on board are not forgotten. Their story continues to be told. Their mystery continues to matter, somewhere deep beneath the ocean. The final answers may still be waiting, and until they are found, the search for MH370 is not truly over.